Hello friends, how are you? Hope so you are doing well. In this video we are going to discuss the various phases of development of economics, and we will start these development phases from the very beginning with the classical economics. First of all, we will discuss about the classical economics, and after that we are going to discuss about the new classical economics. Friends, I have listened various times that many people are very confused in this regards, that is what is the basic difference between classical economics and new classical economics. In this video, we are going to detailed discussions about the classical economists and neoclassical economists distinguish with their contributions. Because without learning about their contributions, it is not possible to understand the basic difference between classical economics. And in this video, we are going to discuss all these things and their contributions later on. Friends, in third phase, if we will discuss, it is not possible for the economists that if we will not discuss about the Keynes contribution. It was also an era and it was also a phase, and he also contributed majorly in the contribution of economists. So this is the third phase, we can say. After Keynes, another generation, second generation new classical economists, a different category of economists was emerged in this category, with different opinion, different approaches. So we also have to analyze about the new classical economists. I would like to focus you that we are concerned about new classical and new classical. These are the different phases of economists contributions, in which we can say a new classical economist and new classical. Don't get confused between them. They are the different approach with different economist contributions. So let's start in detail. This was the only introduction part of the topic. So let's start with the classical economists. Friends, if we will discuss about classical economists, and it is not possible that we will not discuss about Adam Smith, known as the father of the economics. It was a phase, you can say, from 1776, when he published his first book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of the Nation, which is also mentioned here in the video as name of the Wealth of the Nation. So after that, it is not such like that. Before Adam Smith, there was not any existence of economics. There was existence of economics, but it is a part of political science. It is only just you can say part of the political science. But after the introduction of Adam Smith's book, An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of the Nation, the economics becomes the systematic phase to be discussed, becomes a systematic subject. So we can say after Adam Smith. So that's why we called Adam Smith as the father of the nation. He also contributes on various theories, just like invisible hand, laissez-faire, absolute cost advantage theory, division of labor. Invisible hand, he mentioned that there is no need of any government. Economy will adjust. Economy will adjust itself. No need of any government intervention is there. We can also distinguish with this approach with Keynes approach. Keynes, Keynes gives his contribution in economics with the sense that government should interfere in the economy. We will also discuss about that part. But Adam Smith's opinion was that all classical economists was opinion was that government should not interfere in the economy, because the economy will adjust in long term in everything. Yeah, okay. Invisible hand, laser fares also that absolute cost advantage, division of labor with the help of division of labor productions. He focused on the various phases of the production. And the second one, classical economist, was David Ricardo. In many phases, David Ricardo, you can say, few theories which was incomplete by Adam Smith was just completed by David Ricardo. Just like Adam Smith gives the theory of absolute cost advantage, and David Ricardo gives the theory of comparative cost advantage theory. It was completed. It was an advanced version of the Adam Smith. If we will get any chance, so we will definitely prepare a video in this regards also, of absolute cost advantage and comparative. Advanced version of absolute cost advantage theory was comparative cost advantage theory. He also just as I told, the division of labor, Adam Smith give the theory regarding division of labor. David Ricardo also just give the theory of labor theory of value. He also discussed about economic rent. So many theories was also discussed by the David Ricardo. After that, we can't forget in classical economics JV say the very popular law law of supply. Supply creates its own demand. It was very popular. It was very popular from the various years. So we can't forget. And for JV say, you can say this is the law which was universally applicable. Supply creates its own demand. Here I would like to point out that the starting was point of supply in a neoclassical phases, which was from 1870 to 1970. In neoclassical phases, the discussions of demand was also on the basis of this supplies law. So JVC's contributions was very important in macro as well as micro. Friends, in this theories, you will feel that only macroeconomics parts are going to be discussed here. Classical economics doesn't focus on the part of microeconomics. There was of the opinion that of the macroeconomics was just like wealth of the nation, and in government interference, cost advantage, division of labor theory, supply creates its own demand. The whole economy as a whole was considered by the classical economics. And Malthus, of course, Malthus theory of population, he also was a part of the classical economics. After that, let's start with the new classical economics. When I discuss about new classical economics, yeah, just see W.S. Jevons from UK. In this phase of economics, near about 1870, I have mentioned here the year 1870. With this year, just as mentioned with the Jevons, that mathematics was introduced in the economics. Various mathematical methods was introduced in the economics, just like utility, calculation of utility and everything. In this phase, mathematical introductions was just comes in the economics. In this regards, Jevons plays a very important role. And also Karl Menger from Austria, he also known as the founder of Austrian School of Economics. And also Leon Walras from France, he gives the theory of general equilibrium. But last not least, when I discuss about Alfred Marshall, because the very popular economist from neoclassical category was Alfred Marshall. Actually, Jevons, Menger, Walras just contribute their and gives their contribution in economics with the introduction of mathematics. But many theories was just completed by Alfred Marshall. These theories was incomplete without the contributions of Marshall. That's why Marshall became the very popular economist in this regards. So let's focus on the what's Alfred Marshall's actually contribute in this regards. It is just like marginal utility, demand and supply. Yes, I mentioned here demand and supply. And in classical economics, we study JB says laws. Supply creates its own demand. Classical economists actually study about the macroeconomy as a whole, economy as a whole. But in this neoclassical economics, that's why we are going to distinguish. We are going to distinguish on the basis of classical economics and neoclassical. Actually, it has a very large, it has a very vast difference between classical and neoclassical, because neoclassical focus on the part of microeconomics. The topics which you learn in the microeconomics was just developed by the neoclassical economics. And here we are just going to learn about the Alfred Marshall marginal utility. These all are the part of the microeconomics. Consumer surplus, consumption equilibrium, quasi rent, all these parts are becomes the part of the neoclassical economics. And of course ACPQ just contribute, just help Alfred Marshall. Without they combined both makes the efforts to complete many theories. So without ACPQ, the contribution of Alfred Marshall can't be considered as a very valid part. So these are the neoclassical economists. And last but not least, not last also, Professor Keynes. Actually, friends, Professor Keynes have different identity and different opinion. I really want to tell you that he gives the major contribution in the First World War from United Kingdom. And he was very just keen of heart, very good-hearted human being. And when he thinks that many with the lots of various things, I don't want to all this discuss in this platform. So he just contribute in various economics phases of economics. And at that time, when in 1928 the Great Depressions just hit the whole world, then he mentioned that government should interfere, because from classical economics and new classical economics, every economist was saying that no need of government intervention is required. But at this time, Professor Keynes just give the just give the opinion that government should interfere, because it is there should be some central authority to regulate everything. What is going to be good or what is going to be bad for the economy, it is needed to be take decisions from the various, because it was a very tough time. As I told you that after First World War, he gives some major contributions from in First World War also. So he was of the different opinion, and he also think that government interference is needed everywhere. So Professor Keynes was ideology was different, and in this regards you can say he contributed many theories. General theory of employment, interest and money, it was his first book. Although he gives many contributions before this book also, he was very popular, but his first official book was published in 1936 of General Theory of Employment and Interest and Money. He also discussed about absolute income hypothesis, theories, and liquidity trap, very popular liquidity trap. What after the what government contribution should be in the sense of liquidity trap. Psychological law, very popular consumption, psychological law of consumption, on which regards we discuss various theories of aggregate demand and aggregate supply. Probability theory, multiplier effects. There is a long list on the name of the Professor Keynes. That's why he itself known as the school, Professor Keynes School of Economics, Professor Keynes. So with the government concept of government efficient and everything, many facts, many aspects he contributes. Okay, after Professor Keynes, a new category was also developed. Actually, Professor Keynes' theory was not useful for the long-term purpose. Actually, the theory was only for the specific, only for the purpose of short-term purpose only. But when we discuss about long-term, actually government interference is needed when it is the cases of emergency. In emergency, government interference is needed, and Professor Keynes' theory is very effective. But what about long term? When questions was asked, that what will be the decisions in long term? So Professor Keynes doesn't gives any specific answers regarding that what should be the, but his only opinion was that just focus on the short term in emergency, no need to focus on the long term. So that's why a different approach was developed by Professor Keynes, just opposite to the classical economics. You can say whatever Professor Keynes did, it is just about and opposite to the classical economics. So friends, in a new classical economics, when Keynes theory from 1920 to 1970, near about 1970, although the various disadvantages has been observed from 1960s also. In 1960s also, a need of some new theories was also feel that because some Keynes theory was ineffective in that time period. So Keynes theory, after Keynes theory, we can say a new category of economics was developed. That was second generation new classical. New, it is not neoclassical. New classical was from 1870 to 1920. Alfred Marshall category was that. Alfred Marshall group, you can say. And in this second generation new classical economics, we can just mention about John Muth and Robert Lucas rational expectation theories, Milton Friedman permanent income hypothesis, and it is also a new category was also emerged in 2008. As all we know that in 2008 a great depressions in our world was struck. So in all these situations, when there is always some conditions or some situations of emergency, then definitely Keynes opinion was required by the world. So just it was a refreshment of the Keynes theory in 2008. So what could we do in emergency? So new Keynesian group was also emerged in 2008, in which Akerlof, Krugman, various reputed economists name was mentioned here, Mankiw, Michael Woodford. So a different opinion was also emerged. So because in 2008 various and of course without Professor Samuelson, who gives the revealed preference theory, it would not be possible to imagine all these things. So friends, this is a very comprehensive studies who we have tried to conclude everything in this small video. If I made some mistakes, because I am feeling that lots of things was discussed in this whole video. If I made some mistake, then please forward me, because we have learned about the legends, and from bottom of my heart I feel that these are legends, and very we can't just explain all things about these legends in a single video, because it needs a lot of time. But for a revision point of view, for learning point of view, I have said many things. So if I made any mistakes, so please forgive me. If you like this video, then please subscribe and share and like this video, so I get motivated. And if you want any such kind of material, anything else, so you can please give me your valuable response and valuable message and valuable feedback. Thanks a lot, friends, for the watching the video. Thanks a lot.